and price regulation in a system is very essential, is important. Is houses available? That's another question we might need to debate on. Then when we talk about the concept of affordability, we talk about the houses available. Are people willing and able to buy those houses? Can people really afford to purchase those houses? Two major factors that we should look into here, which is the first is government policy. Please note. And the second has to do with increase in price of building materials and construction materials. That will talk about the mortgage system.
Hello everyone, my name is Kimora Ayasi and I'm your host for a discussion on real estate matters. Today we're going to have another amazing episode as always, and we have an esteemed guest who we're all very familiar with, and it's none other than Mr. Olumide, who joined us on a previous episode.
Okay, like I said earlier, I'm town planner Olumide Okedava, a town planner with Pertinence Group, and I have about 10 years experience when it comes to real estate and land acquisition matters.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's
You're
a
welcome.
pleasure to have you again.
You're welcome.
So today we're going to be talking about housing affordability. Are you ready for us?
I am.
Okay, let's get down right to our discussion. So our first question is, sir, what do you think are the factors contributing to the lack of affordable housing in Nigeria, particularly in urban areas?
Normally when I answer questions, I like defining concepts.
Okay.
So you just talked about affordability now.
Yes.
And affordability is a very wide concept because it has to do with the environment and society. What's affordable in a society might not be available in another society. So I'll start by saying gone are those days when we have policies that can regulate price. And price regulation in a system is very essential, is important. So when we can decide, when we know we have about three major starters of people based on their income, which is a high level, medium level, and low level. And with the rapid increase in the cost of living now, so people do even say that medium income earners will not exist again. So that's one of the factors, and it has to do with government now. So are there houses? There are houses everywhere. At least if you look around, you see some houses in the highbrow areas. Note my word, highbrow areas of Abuja, highbrow areas of Lagos, that's around Ikoyi. And these houses are deserted. Nobody's living in such houses. So is houses available? That's another question we might need to debate on. How readily available are houses for people to live in? Then when we talk about the concept of affordability, we talk about the houses available. Are people willing and able to buy those houses? Can people really afford to purchase those houses? So with that, I would say there are three major concepts for me. That's three major factors that we should look into here, which is the first is government policy. Please note. And the second has to do with insistent increase in price of building materials and construction materials. So that's another factor that's affecting the affordability of housing, our houses. And the last concept I will talk about has to do with the mortgage system in Nigeria here. It's not really encouraging. So the first one, talking about government policies. What effort is the government making in regulating the housing sector in Nigeria here? For example, in developed part of the world, for example, like Canada, government ensures that when an area has been marked for development, which can be residential or industrial, government moves in, it's their policy, government moves into such area first and make available the basic infrastructure amenities that is needed. Just like a laid out road, along with the road, the gas is being laid out. After gas is being laid out, drainage system is being laid out. So when developers, they will have done this even with developers coming to build houses. So it's just from the concept of plug and play for developers. They plug in and they pay, which also helps developers in management. Now, I need to be sincere. Developers does not really make so much money in those constructions. Their money majorly comes from, or their income or profit makes come from running of these houses. That means the actual day-to-day cost they use in running. So that is, we call it management. So management of these houses, that's where the major profit comes from. So by the government policy not favoring them, it's even discouraging some developers to go into this concept of doing affordable housing. Another aspect of government policy, which I will talk about, is when it even comes to developers getting basic approvals for these constructions. Most developers that tend to go through the normal structure for getting the approvals, some of them are being frustrated. And those that are not being frustrated, they end up paying so much for getting this approval. And you know, every business is being set up for profitability. So when they cannot make profits, then they need to just rework their system and see how they can still increase profit. And by increasing profit margin, or by trying to make some more profit, it increases the cost of those houses, thereby not really making them affordable. So that's government policy.
Okay.
So the second one, which is an insistent increase in price of building materials. I think, for instance, do you know most developers in Nigeria, they are tilting away towards construction of houses and sales of affordable houses? That's most of the influential ones. They are now tilting towards site and services. Why? For instance, about 3-4 years ago, I remember a bag of cement was sold around 2,900 naira. So for people that is even going into this kind of model, which involves customers or those that want to subscribe for such houses to be able to spread their payments for 4-5 years. So they already have their calculation worked out, the cost of construction, the inflation cost has been considered, and so many other factors. But along the line, can you believe the cement that was sold for 2,900 about 4 years ago is now being sold averagely around 10,000 naira? So how do you project an inflation of about 400%? I said about 400% within the space of 4 years. And that's just cement. How do we talk about iron rod that was sold around 200 and something thousand, that's now sold above 1 million naira? So these are part of the problems developers also face. And some of them, before they know, the model changed from being affordable
Not affordable
to what the market is really predicting now, what the market is stating presently. Then in the developed part of the world, the last one, which is the mortgage system that is not so effective in Nigeria. We have it in Nigeria, but it's not that accessible. Let me use that word. So in the developed part of the world, people are the mortgage system is available to them, which they pay certain down payment to the mortgage bank. The mortgage bank finances construction, helps them in owning houses. The system is well regulated. But here in Nigeria, not everybody even knows the mortgage system exists, and not everybody even have access to it. So, and when there's a lack of information, there's tendency that be some form of deformity. Because the information does not come to you directly, then whatever you hear might be an information that has been packaged by someone else. So those are the major factors I will talk about. If the mortgage system is made available to everybody, then you know what what is actually affordable to you based on your income.
Based on your income, yes.
And it helps you spread your payments maybe to 15, 20 years. And that's how it is done in developed part of the world. So those are three major ones I'll prefer to talk about.
Because I have to follow up your answer, I have another question.
Okay.
What role do you think property price fluctuations and the market dynamics play in the housing affordability crisis in Nigeria?
Okay, I will not mention names there, but there's a real estate company that also came with the concept of affordable housing, where people could pay about 50,000 per month for the space of 5 years. And within that 5 years, you can 50,000 naira will make you own. I'll say these areas are banned areas too. So I can mention area like Mowe, which is just about 20 minutes to the CBD. That is the Keja Lagos State CBD. So now, when that concept was created, it was pay 50,000 naira per month, and you can spread your payment for as much as 5 years. And with that, you can have access to own a mini flat apartment. That is a sitting room, 1 bedroom, and all other amenities, just as such as a kitchen and a restroom. But along the line, with the increment in the cost of construction materials, so it's not looking so realistic. Also, some companies, some organizations are just trying to meet up with their promises based on their name and their brand. But at the same time, business is created for profitability. It's an entity on its own. So even if it's not making profit, it shouldn't be making loss. So the insistent increase in price of construction material is just a factor that is even making the pursuit of affordable housing a difficult task for developers, and it's discouraging. So some had to review their T&Cs just to meet up with promises. Some even had to back up and tell customers, should just call for refund. So it's not helping the developers to achieve their dream of affordable housing to customers.
Because from all you said, I can rightly say that this housing affordability, it affects both the developers and the customers, right? Yes. So my next question, what, in your own opinion, what policy measures or market initiative or financial initiatives can be made to address the housing affordability in Nigeria?
Okay, I'll just mention two. The first is price regulation.
Okay.
Government needs to come in when it comes to regulation of prices of construction material in Nigeria. Major factor that affects this increment on the instability in price, it streams down to the cost of transportation, which is dependent on the fuel. Government can help us regulate that. The cost of cement, government can regulate that. Iron rods, etc. Government can regulate that. So if government can step in and regulate price, there's a way they can do regulation, standardize the pricing. It's not that these companies will not make, the producers of these materials will not make their profits, but you also have in mind the end users. The second aspect of this that needs to be looked into is the mortgage system. At least if we calculate the amount of civil servants we have in Nigeria, and if there's a properly structured mortgage system that can help people own houses based on their income, they can spread payments. For example, if I'm employed into the civil service based on my pension and other agreements, I know I can still do up to 20 or 25 years. So whatever I'm doing now, if I can spread my payment within 25 years, I know by the time I've clocked maybe 10 years in service, then whatever I've saved, the mortgage can add up to it. And it helps the journey into owning affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
Since the money will be deducted from my salary monthly, I know, fine, this is my spendable income. So it helps house ownership easy, and it makes it even affordable to me with less stress. Since there's a fixed percentage that will be deducted from my monthly salary. So I feel if those two have been worked, although there are other things that can be worked on, so also the same policy I mentioned earlier can also be worked on. That's government policy. But I feel if these two problems are being identified and tackled, then housing will be more affordable to people.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your input and information. It was another wonderful time with you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us once again. I hope you've learned one or two. It was an amazing time with Mr. Olumide, who has talked about housing affordability. Join us on our next episode next week, Tuesday. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pertinence TV. Drop your comments. We are always ready to respond. Thank you.